This is All India Radio. On the eve of the monsoon session of Parliament, the News Services Division of All India Radio brings you a discussion on issues before Parliament. The participants are Shwet Malik from BJP, P.L. Punia from Congress, Binoy Vishwam from CPI and Mohammad Salim from CPIM. Senior journalist K.V. Prasad initiates and moderates the discussion.
The monsoon session of Parliament begins on Wednesday, and as expected, the government has a huge legislative agenda. Traditionally, the monsoon session is legislative business conducted because soon after the budget session is over, the government of the day brings bills, and almost nearly 100 bills are in various categories that are before both the houses, and plans of some 18 new bills, including some to replace the ordinances. Mr. Malik, the Bharatiya Janata Party, of course, everybody is waiting as to what kind of priorities the government wants to bring. Its legislative agenda, of course, and we'll hear as we go along. Many parties in the opposition have issues of concern which they want to debate and discuss. Over the past few sessions, we have seen the functioning of the houses has been affected on various counts. How do you look at the coming session?
I salute to the working of Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji, that he worked for every category of the society and he works 18 hours a day for the welfare of all the categories. So this monsoon session is very important because due to the non-cooperation of Congress and other opposition party, the last budget session was all wasted because they don't have any issue on the performance of the government with honesty. So that way they just spoiled the all session with a negative approach. So now I request all the opposition parties that please cooperate for the welfare of people. Basically, you have affected the future of the people of this country. We have around more than 100 bills, as you said, and 6 ordinances to be replaced with the bills. Like very important ordinances are there, like fugitive economic offenders ordinance that could prevent economic offenders from fleeing the country. This is very important. Then Criminal Law Amendment Ordinance 2018, anti-rape bill that seeks to increase the punishment of those including minors convicted in the rape cases. The commercial divisions and commercial enables court to create a separate divisions to handle cases related to construction, contracts for the provision of goods and service. The Homeopathy Central Council Amendment Ordinance 2018 to regulate homeopathic education. So many important bills also, like the key bill, Muslim Marriage Protection Bill, and Triple Talaq and Motor Vehicles Amendment Bill. So I don't want to go in details. My request again to the opposition party that please cooperate for the welfare. Don't play politics, say, and don't create hindrance in the welfare of the people of the country.
Mr. Punya, you have heard a member of the ruling party to say what he said. First and foremost, as the principal party in opposition, especially in Rajya Sabha, and the fact that the opposition parties are increasingly trying to have greater flow coordination to work in Parliament. Would you like to say something on that?
The session is starting and there will be huge agenda before the government, which would like to place before both the houses for passing. And let me correct the statement made by Mr. Malik that because of the negative approach of the opposition, the last budget session was disrupted. Let me clarify that the last budget session was disrupted not because of the opposition parties, but because of the Bharatiya Janata Party and its allies. The different business were taken up, different notices were discussed, the no confidence motion was to be discussed. Then they raised a hue and cry, and the speaker said that since house is not in order, so this business cannot be taken up. The last session, no major business could be transacted. And there are different issues. He is talking about triple talaq, and Prime Minister has also been making statement outside the Parliament when he visits different states about triple talaq. Let me ask, what is their stand about women reservation bill? Because that is most important, and our Congress President has already raised this issue before the government and the Prime Minister. And there are other burning issues like agrarian crisis. Then the atrocities on women, the women rights, the different major incidents like Katwa and Unnao, where the BJP people were involved, and SC/ST atrocities, SC/ST bill, the act was diluted and weakened. No effort are being taken by the government. We would like to raise it. The Jammu Kashmir crisis that was created by the government and the Bharatiya Janata Party. the black money. During 2014 poll campaign, it was mentioned that such a huge amount of money is deposited in Swiss banks that they will bring it back within 100 days and distribute to 15 lakhs per account holder. So now the report has come that in Swiss bank the money deposited by Indians has increased by 50%. Where is that promise of bringing the entire black money back? This is also one of the issue. The statement being made by the Prime Minister and the ministers are highly objectionable. And naturally, when he's making allegations against the Congress president and the important leader, those issues would definitely be raised. The smooth functioning of the parliament session depends on the coordination between government and the opposition parties. And I don't see any signal where the government is attempting or proposing to have any dialogue between government and the opposition parties. These would be major issues where the government would have to be accommodative. The opposition would like all such important issues are discussed in the House. The notices would be given, and the discussion on those notices should be taken up under the same rule.
Mr. Salim, you've been a member of both the houses, so you have seen Parliament function. There have been disruptions in the past too. Opposition of the day has raised issues of concern, and there's an old adage: the opposition can have its say, but government will have its way, and that's been the way in which the parliamentary democracy has been working. What are the issues that the CPIM in particular would like to highlight, and what is the general mood?
Right, Prasad. Our Indian parliamentary democracy is a bit noisy, but functioning. And now the problem with this government is that you have minimized the importance of parliament. And that's how the number of days of sittings has gone down. Even the issues are not before the parliament. We are discussing on the radio. In your opening remarks, you said that there are huge bills are piled up. Why? First week of April, we were meeting. So after that, these bills have not come. It's only new 18 bills, out of that 6 ordinances. So what stopped the government to bring as a bill in the parliament and get it passed during budget session, particularly this insolvency and bankruptcy code bill? Because government never want to discuss those issues, particularly economic issues, failure of the economic policy, the failure of the public sector bank, the corruption involved, unemployed youth are not getting jobs. Prime Minister is claiming outside in public meeting that we have offered job, but there is no data. Why? India is a software giant and everything is digitalized. Even payment is being made digitalized. A government cannot have this data available. Similarly, this Jan Dhan Yojana. What happened to that? People have deposited the money. Where from the people are getting the money? In the Swiss bank, the deposit is increasing. In concrete terms, for last 3 months, there is a outflow of our investment. Prime Minister roamed around the world to bring back investment in this country. But the result is that our own debt and equity markets, the foreign investors are taking out the money for last 3 months. You see the dollar price. This is government which promised that, and through some babas that 40 rupees, 30 rupees will be a dollar, and now it is skyrocketing. Why it is so? The government has to answer. Since government do not want to answer on the question of farmers' plight, when the farmers are moving on the streets, they are bleeding, they are committing suicide, they are loan waiver, they are demanding, but government is not doing that. When the corruption is mounting, but government is saying it's a corruption free. You see in this country now, there are BJP MPs involved in the Public Service Commission, state public service commissions. Corruption is there in the conducting the result. When you talk about women's bill, what happened to that? On concrete terms, where is the government priority? Why they have not listed for last 4 years?
Mr. Viswam, as to what the CPI in particular would like to do in this session, because this will be the penultimate legislative session of the government in technically.
With all my respect to Malikji, I would like to say they believe only in propaganda. 18 hours, Honorable Prime Minister is working. It is too hard for a man, human being, to work for 18 hours. The result, we know, the people are starving. The farmers are being shot down. Dalits are being killed. Women are tortured. Students are cheated. Youth, they had a promise of 2 crore jobs per year. Nothing is being done on that behalf. So, a parliament session is the proper place for the opposition to expose such a government. We, with all our mights, will collectively try to tell the people about the happenings that the country is witnessing today.
Mr. Malik, you have heard the mood of the opposition, and there are obviously many issues which you as the party would also be aware that needs to be discussed and debated. One of the issues has been highlighted is the issue of under what rule and what something has been witnessed in the last session too. So as a day before the parliament began, we have the speaker and the parliamentary affairs minister who normally meet and discuss, and where every party says they are going to cooperate and issues will be allowed to be raised. So how hopeful are you that this time the session would be smooth?
On the contrary, what I will say that government is ready to discuss each and every issue in the parliament. We are always ready because we performed so well, and we are enjoying the mandate which is against Congress and these communist parties, that they are losing their grounds, they are minimized. This is the, say, verdict of the people, which is supreme. But they keep on shouting, they spoil the time, they don't let us discuss. We keep on requesting our friends that you come on the floor, discuss. We are ready to reply every matter on the floor of the house. But they don't let us, they keep on shouting and spoil. That's what happened during the last session.
So, Mr. Punia, you heard what he said, but you say has to be a room for negotiation and dialogue.
There has to be room for negotiation and dialogue. And
because the BJP spokesman does say that the government is prepared for...
Government has to take the first step forward and involve opposition in negotiation. And because we also come to Parliament for discussion, for debate, and to raise different issues. But the government has to respond. Government must show its willingness to cooperate with the opposition to run the parliament smoothly. So this is their responsibility and our responsibility also to cooperate. But if you are adamant that we will not listen a word of caution, of support from the opposition, then what happens? One-sided, the parliament cannot function.
Mr. Salim, the fact also is that the last time many of the standoffs took place on the issues of rules, under what motion should be admitted, whether it should be a substantive motion entailing voting and on. Can the opposition look for a more imaginative way in getting the discussion debate going on instead of just insisting that a particular rule, I mean, of course, it's all tactics and strategy on the floor. But the larger thing is if you want to get the debate moving.
Mr. Prasad, you know that this noise or this logjam is nothing new in Indian Parliament. It's not that Mr. Modi became Prime Minister and then only opposition coming. When BJP was in the opposition, the same thing was happening. But this is depending on the skill of the Parliamentary Affairs Ministry, the willingness of the government, and of course the cooperative spirit of the opposition. And rules are not meant for just to disturb the house or not to allow the opposition to raise certain voice. But rules are framed to facilitate this discussion. The parliamentary democracy is all about discussion, debate, dissent, and then the decision. But you have to allow this dissent also. The problem with this government is they don't allow the voice of dissent. And in a democracy, dissent must be there. Within your party, within your NDA, you don't allow. That's why last parliament session you have seen, it's a NDA partners who came on the well. It's not the opposition. Opposition was on the and a no confidence motion, first time in the history of not only Indian parliament, throughout the world, wherever parliamentary democracy exists, that no confidence motion could not be taken up. So opposition have filed this on motion. It's not that opposition was disturbing. So it was engineered by the government side so that the no confidence motion cannot be discussed. So you allow the opposition to, and minister after minister, parliamentary affairs minister particularly, last session you've seen, every day was making half an hour speech saying that we are ready to discuss everything, but opposition was not allowed to raise their voice, raise their issues, and minister was on record saying everything. You see the proceedings of the parliament, every day parliament functioned only to allow the minister to make the submission and no opposition's voice was recorded. All the institutions are now being destroyed, be it the research institute, be it the central universities, be it the institute of eminence, be it the scientific research institutes, and you are promoting some geo kind of a thing everywhere. Your public sector banks are dying and you are allowing foreign banks to come and take over the market. Your BSNL and your Indian companies, the telecom communications are making losses and you are allowing a particular company to promote it. So is it the way? Within parliament also you want to make only one voice to be heard and other voices to be submerged? Then it will be a death knell for the parliamentary democracy.
And
Mr.
about
Vishnu?
the rule,
Mr.
quickly,
Pulia.
that BJP or the NDA has a massive majority in Lok Sabha. Why are they afraid of a notice which entails the voting? They should not be afraid. They should in fact welcome it.
Yeah.
And if they lose in Rajya Sabha, that doesn't matter. That doesn't affect the health of the government.
Before I go to Mr. Malik, Mr. Viswam, just very quickly, you see there are a number of important legislation that have been pending. We have listed, there's some coming up. How about the backward commission? The whole thing is that all political parties seem to have some kind of an agreement that this bill needs to be passed. And the ordinance has to be replayed. I think the parliamentary select committee report too is ready. So do you see any movement on a bill like that?
We from the opposition would like to see that all such important bills should be passed there. But it depends not only on us, it depends upon the government. The parliament is meant for debates and discussions, and the government has the prime duty to see that the business of the government is to be fulfilled. And parliament is the place where the people's will is reflected. BJP, throughout these 4 years, has shown absolute disregard for the people's will. And when it comes to the later years, it is more and more becoming arrogant, aggressive on the opposition. And they are talking too much about the mandate. What is the mandate they got in the by-elections? In all the by-elections, including in UP, the mandate goes against the BJP. The people are fed up with the BJP rule. And that is known to the BJP also. So they want to disrupt the discussions not accidentally. It is purposeful. They want to see that a meaningful debate should not take place there. Let the people not know the facts of the country, so that either they themselves will do it or they will engineer the discussions and disruptions in the house so that their nasty, narrow ends are taken up. This is what we are seeing today.
Mr. Malik, would you like to
These
respond?
opposition parties are terrified with the tsunami of Modi ji. They sacrifice their culture, their ideology, everything just to restrain Modi ji's tsunami. So I find they are with no issue, they are with no logic. Modi ji has performed so well and people they acknowledge. How can you compare few seats with the few states, with the many states? Like we are blessed by the people of the country to serve 20 states now.
What happened?
And you are comparing this with let me speak. I never interrupted you.
We'll get back.
You are comparing with the small victories with arithmetic manipulations which you did with sacrificing your ideology, sacrificing your party interests, and you just bowed down like Congress. With honor, I'll say that Congress is the basic party who lost everything for the sake of just they are so terrified with Modi ji that they have sacrificed it. They are just they have lost their dignity in the eyes of the people. So I say that people are with Modi ji and they are very happy with the working of Modi ji. You will see in the coming parliament election, the majority we are going to win.
Mr. Punia, I mean, there's certainly, as I said, we understand the mood. It has amply reflected the opposition and also the ruling party's side. But certainly there has to be a legislative agenda which the Congress also would like to push forward in national interest and interest of the people. So are you looking for certain bills on which there is room for negotiation and also?
No, definitely the women reservation bill, we would like the government to bring it on topmost priority. Then you mentioned about the National Commission for
Backward classes.
We are for passing this, and in the why it could not be passed because of the failure of the BJP NDA government in floor management. They should have just assured what was the amendment. Amendment was that all the members, vice chairman and chairman should belong to the backward classes. And there should be one member, the woman member, and she should also be belonging to the backward classes. So what was wrong with this? They could have assured that we will make a provision in the rule. So let us not press this amendment for inclusion in the constitutional amendment. So there was lack of enthusiasm on the part of the government to push through that bill. We are keen and we will support this if they come with clarification about the amendment.
Mr. Salim, before you, just a couple of issues that I thought I should ask you is many of the bills which are pending before the consideration of either house pertain to labor, the change of labor laws in the country. This is something that has been going on. Both CPI, CPM are forefront in protecting the rights of working classes and the labor class. So how do you see an act on that?
Don't go by the nomenclature. If it is on contract on labor, that doesn't mean that it is going to benefit the labor. The whole purpose of this government is to serve the big capitals, be the foreign capitals, be our own monopoly capitalists. And that's why how they are tinkering with the statutes books, you will find out. The amendments in the Companies Act, the amendments in these labor laws, these are not meant for directly benefiting the poor people or the middle class people or the small businessmen. It is mainly as a part of the labor reform, they want to make more stringent for the laborers, for the poorers. So if I say positive agenda, one is that women's bill. Second is, you are talking about MSP so loudly. Where is the procurement? Let there be a bill introduced by the government that is, and you are from Punjab, Mr. Malik, that compulsory buyback of the goods produced by the peasants and farmers. Farmers producers has to be bought back by the procurement agency. You are not going to do that. You are trying to help. Let there be the employment guarantee scheme expanded. This UPA 1 started with 100 days. Now you make it 200 days. Who is going to oppose you? You are making so many of employment. So you make it. Thirdly, the question is that the NPA, to deal with NPA, debt tribunal things, as well as more stringent provisions should be there. Be it the SURFACE Act, be it the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Act, and the Companies Act. But the government is trying to change the statutes so that the wrongdoers get escape. And this is how you are trying to protect the corrupt, protect the inefficient, and protect those who are looting public sector banks. So that's why you are opposing to that. The whole purpose is not to strengthen the public sector bank, but to dilute the banking system and financial institution. That is why you are opposing it.
Mr. Wisdom, for these things to happen, again, we go back to the same thing. The houses will have to function. And even though in Lok Sabha, the numbers may not really add up to stop. But in Rajya Sabha, we have seen, as in the last 4 years, there have been number of bills which were referred to select committees because there was a disagreement with what came before the House. The government of the day has a viewpoint. The opposition had a viewpoint. Are we going to see more of the same, or will there be another approach? Because this, as I mentioned, is the penultimate session really before this government's tenure comes to an end.
Now, we want to see the parliament function in a proper way, with full of debates, exchange of views, even dissents, discussions, and all those things. We are for that. But there is a big but. Is the government ready for that? Government is not ready for that. Now they are talking too much about this fugitive economic offenders bill. The same people were supporting the biggest economic offenders of the country to leave the country. Till this day, nothing is being done. Both the national and multinational corporates are being allowed to do all kind of economic offences in this country at the cost of the workers' rights, at the cost of the peasants' lives. And this government is talking about the poor. Only lip service they are doing for the poor. The government is having a class approach which is 100% subservient to the desires and wishes of the super rich. And the super rich is now happy with this government. And all their propaganda machinery is now on service for this government. That's why all sorts of media is doing day and night service for singing songs for Narendra Modi government. The fact is absolutely away from this.
Mr. Malik, you mentioned about the triple talaq issue, that the government would like to push that bill. And this is something which we just 2 days ago, the Prime Minister mentioned in a public speech. He made a reference to it in a different fashion, of course. I would like to hear one view on that. Also, the view of what Mr. Punia talked about, the women's reservation, is does the government have a view on it?
My first question is that my opposition friends are making beautiful suggestions. They served the country for so long time. Why they never performed? They got the opportunity to implement, they should have implemented all these reforms. Like this MSP reform, beautiful suggestion from my friend. Then health cover, beautiful suggestion. For say empowering women, beautiful suggestions. We are doing and they are criticizing. Why they never implemented such type of reforms during their regime? So this shows the negative culture of opposition, that they failed to deliver to the people of the country, and they just got the penalty they were penalized by the people with the mandate. So I find this proves the negative culture of these friends. So on the triple talaq, we are ready to discuss everything in the parliament, but you please let the parliament function. This is my request. If you keep on shouting like this, what we will do? Ruling party, we cannot do anything.
No, we want to know what are your views on the women reservation bill. We introduced women reservation in panchayats, in urban local bodies, and we also introduced women reservation bill providing reservation in parliament and state assemblies. That was passed in Rajya Sabha, but was blocked in Lok Sabha. So now you have massive majority in Lok Sabha, and we assure that we will give unconditional support to pass this bill in Rajya Sabha. So you must come forward.
See, we are ready with all the social reforms. We want to implement each and every good bill, I assure you. But again, I request you, don't let us run the parliament. Just give us the opportunity to run the parliament, then only we can perform. But this is the basic point, I am observing from last 2 years.
It's a highly objectionable. On the one hand, you are blaming opposition as a negative thing, but you are saying you cannot perform You are so
No,
powerful.
we are performing.
You cannot perform because of the opposition.
We are
Just blame-
performing,
in a
but
blame game.
you don't let us run the parliament. You sabotage the system. Last time also, you never allowed us to run the parliament for even a single day.
Mr. Malik, I think,
And you enjoyed the salaries. We even surrendered our salary for the month to the
Mr.
people.
Vishwam wants to
But
say
you
something.
No,
enjoyed it.
other sources, not
We request the ruling party to
You never had any right to enjoy that salary. We never worked. We surrendered our salary. You never.
Mr. Malik, I'll just
we
request
request the
Mr.
ruling
Vishwam to
party
say, and I'll come back to
just
you.
to answer one question, a question which is very important for the country. Would you support the women reservation bill in this session, which is unconditionally, we promise from the opposition side, we will support you. We will join your hands.
You are just representing two parties.
No, no,
only.
we're-
Communist Party, CPI, CPIM and
And
Congress. But we are with the bill, say, I assure you, we are for the reform. We are with the bill, but with the consensus. That's the point.
There's the problem.
what else you
when
need?
it comes to the question of women reservation, they talk about consensus. There's so many bills, contentious bills, passed even in the midst of din and hangama. That's talk about a lot about this unwillingness of the BJP.
And this is the
to get the
BJP.
bill passed.
This is the BJP.
Well, I think there has been a practice, especially in the Rajya Sabha, not to pass a bill in the din, and that has been more or
Last
less
Sabha already
maintained.
passed, it's Lok Sabha.
No, but that bill is gone. Now you have to bring a fresh bill for this. They have to
No,
a fresh
no.
bill.
Once it is
No, you
passed in
said
Rajya Sabha, that bill is there.
It has once it has been transmitted to the other house.
We are committing. If Congress and let the UPA.
Because the past-
and
They
the,
have
why
devised-
you failed
they-
to pass
they have-
this bill
they have
in your
devised-
tenure?
They have devised an idea.
Punya ji, my
that
request is
certifying bill
you are
as
this is
money
old.
bill.
This is an old bill. Why you failed to pass this bill during your regime?
One more issue I
word
would like
on
to
women
highlight
reservation?
because there are
Is
a
the
number of
BJP
bills.
a party of men only?
Basically, opposition parties
Vishwam,
have
I'm
two
sure you
faces
can take this dialogue
when it
when we
comes
take
to
to
the
the
point
floor.
of triple talaq. Yeah.
Mr. Malik, I just want to discuss one more important issue which is pending, which is the National Medical Commission bill, because a lot has been discussed, the kind of reforms that the government of India is planning in the medical sector, which will have a far-reaching consequences.
very important bill.
And this is a bill which has various facets to it. I think the country needs some clarity into how exactly we need to take our medical service, because this affects each and every individual in this country. Mr. Salim, would you like to say something?
right. For last 2-3 decades, the left is propagating this, and how the expenditure on health care system is growing tremendously. Standardizing it, make it effective, and make it affordable. And for that matter, it's an MCI has to be taken care of, as well as the corruption involved in this medical system. At the same time, this profit mongering, making this super profit out of people's illness. Now, insurance is not an answer, as it was Modi Care, it was announced. But ultimately, we need more doctors, we need more hospitals, we need strengthening of the health centers, and for that matter, guaranteed health service to the citizens, those who cannot afford. Like in the UK, if they can do it, it's not a socialist country, why you should not? And most of the people's money is being spent for their education and health because the government is withdrawing. Let government be involved, and at least 5 to 6% of the GDP should be spent on health.
Mr. Punia, would you like to say something on behalf of the Medical Commission in particular?
No, it is need of the hour, and we would like to pursue it and support it, provided other important issues are taken up first. We'll definitely like to go for this legislation. Prime Minister has recently launched Ayushman Bharat project, but he launched it and went as far as Chhattisgarh to launch it on 14th of April. But we don't see a sign of this project in existence anywhere in the country, nowhere. And even in Chhattisgarh, I have some work in Chhattisgarh, so I keep going there. So it's nothing. So whatever projects are there, whatever schemes are there, but the emphasis must be on implementation. The provision of health facility, provision of good education at the grassroots level, because that is availed by the poor people. And if you see the statistics and if you see the budget, then the outlay and the budget for education and health is decreasing every year.
I'm sure
That-
all
that
these
is-
issues, social issues, will be figuring in Parliament once the sessions begins on Wednesday. The contentious issues obviously are on the table already, and the attitude and approach of both the government and the opposition makes Parliament tick and function on a very healthy basis. This has been the tradition in the last 6 decades plus that Parliament is functioning. Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you.
You were listening to a discussion on issues before Parliament. The participants were Shwet Malik from BJP, P.L. Punia from the Congress, Binoy Vishwam from CPI, and Mohammad Salim from CPIM. Senior journalist K.V. Prasad moderated the discussion. The program was produced and presented by the News Services Division of All India Radio. This program is also available on the website newsonair.nic.in. You may email your opinion about this program at airnsdtalks@gmail.com.